Her hands trembled as she unfolded the wrinkled $5 bill in her purse. It was all she had left after rent and groceries. Tonight was supposed to be her chance, her first blind date in years. But with only $5, Sarah knew she couldn't afford much more than a coffee. Her little daughter, Emma, clutched her hand tightly as they stepped into the cozy Italian restaurant. Emma's wide eyes sparkled at the sight of candles and twinkling fairy lights. For Sarah, though, every glance at the menu was a reminder of her empty wallet. She ordered the cheapest appetizer, trying to hide the shame bubbling inside her. At the next table, a man in a crisp suit watched quietly. Ethan, a single dad himself and CEO of a growing company, had brought his son out for dinner. But while his son busied himself with crayons and a kid's menu, Ethan's attention kept drifting towards Sarah and Emma. He noticed the way Sarah smiled at her daughter despite the worry in her eyes, the way she tore a piece of bread in half and gave Emma the larger portion. Her blind date never showed up. Sarah's phone buzzed with a message. "Sorry, can't make it." And her heart sank. She forced a smile for Emma, but Ethan saw the tears she blinked away. Without a word, he caught the waiter's eye and slipped his card across the table. "Cover their meal," he said softly, "and don't tell them it's me." When the bill arrived, Sarah's chest tightened. She prepared to hand over her only $5, but the waiter gently told her, "Ma'am, it's been taken care of." Sarah stared at the man's retreating back as Ethan rose to leave with his son. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and she mouthed a silent thank you. He smiled, warm, genuine, and understanding, before disappearing into the night. Later, in the car, Ethan's son asked, "Dad, why did you pay for their dinner?" Ethan replied, "Because sometimes people just need to be reminded they're not alone." For Sarah, that night became more than just a failed blind date. It was proof that kindness could appear in the most unexpected ways, that even when life felt like it was falling apart, someone might step in quietly to lift you up. She went home with Emma, her heart lighter than it had been in years. That one act of compassion gave her something money couldn't buy, hope. And in the weeks to come, fate would circle back. Because sometimes when kindness is given freely, life finds a way to return it, often in ways more beautiful than we could ever imagine. Sarah tucked Emma into bed that night, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead as the little girl whispered, Sarah smiled, though her eyes filled with tears. "Sweetheart," she kissed Emma goodnight and sat quietly in the dimly lit room, clutching that crumpled $5 bill she still had in her purse. She hadn't needed to spend it after all. For the first time in months, she felt like the world hadn't completely forgotten her. The following week, Sarah returned to the same restaurant. Not for another blind date, but for a part-time waitress job she had applied for. Life had been hard since her divorce, and every penny mattered. As she tied her apron nervously, her eyes caught a familiar figure walking in. Ethan, the man from that night, this time alone. He recognized her instantly, his eyes softening. "You're here," he said, almost as though the word surprised him. Sarah flushed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Hey, I work here now. Needed the job." Ethan paused, then nodded respectfully. "Good for you." His words weren't pitying, just kind, and that meant everything. Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed off. Ethan would stop by with his son for dinner, always sitting in Sarah's section, always tipping a little more than necessary, though never in a way that felt condescending. What struck Sarah most was how he spoke to her, not as if she was someone broken or struggling, but as if she was simply a person worth listening to. One evening, Emma joined Sarah at the restaurant while Sarah finished her shift. Ethan's son, curious and shy, offered Emma a crayon from his pocket. The two children began to laugh together, their giggles filling the corner of the room. Ethan watched, then looked at Sarah. "It seems like they get along," he said with a small smile. Sarah laughed softly, though her eyes betrayed her worry. Emma doesn't usually open up to strangers, but with him, it's different. It was in that moment Sarah realized something had shifted. This wasn't about a blind date gone wrong anymore. It was about unexpected connections, about two parents who knew what it meant to carry the world on their shoulders for the sake of their children. Weeks turned into months. Sarah saved up enough to move into a slightly better apartment. Emma thrived in school, and Ethan, despite his demanding life as a CEO, always made time for his son. Sometimes it was a quick coffee after her shift, sometimes a walk in the park with both children. One snowy evening, as the four of them walked home from a Christmas market, Ethan stopped, brushing snowflakes from his son's coat. Then he looked at Sarah, his voice low but steady. "That night in the restaurant, I didn't just pay for dinner. I saw you. I saw the way you held everything together with so little, the way you gave your daughter the bigger piece of bread. That kind of strength stays with a person." Sarah's throat tightened. She had never expected anyone to notice. "Well, I was embarrassed that night," she whispered. "I felt like a failure." "You weren't failing," Ethan replied firmly. "You were fighting. And there's a big difference." Sarah blinked back tears, the cold air stinging her cheeks. For the first time in years, she believed his word. The kindness that had begun as a quiet gesture in a restaurant had grown into something far greater, a bond built on respect, resilience, and the shared love of two children who had found joy in each other's laughter. And though neither of them had planned for it, both Sarah and Ethan discovered that sometimes the best things in life don't come from perfect beginnings, but from the moments when someone chooses to care, even in silence. Because one small act of kindness had changed everything.